All right. Good evening. I will now call to order the Monday, February 3rd, 2025 regular town council meeting. If you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have made a slight change to the agenda. We're going to start off with the swearing in of Tad Henderson, EMS Division Chief, and we have Chief Van Gorder and Mayor Stair with us.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. If I could ask Tad Henderson and his family to please come forward. Tad Henderson started Zionsville Fire Department on March 20th, 2017. Prior to that, he came to us with 4 years of career firefighting experience and over 10 years of emergency medical service experience. He served in many roles with the Zionsville Fire Department, in addition to being a firefighter paramedic on shift, but not excluding other items, such as he's a member of our awards committee, our SOG committee, our recruitment team member, a mentor for new recruits and probationary firefighters, and most recently served on a short stint as our shift training coordinator. Joining Tad for the ceremony this evening is his wife, Hannah, and their children. His mother, Sally, is in attendance. His sister and brother-in-law are here as well. His father is unable to be with us this evening as he is in Nicaragua on a mission trip. I am super appreciative of Mayor Stair and the council for allowing us this opportunity to swear Tad Henderson in as the fire chief's appointment to the position of a division chief of EMS. Mr. Mayor.
Always nice to see so many people dressed in blue in the room. If you looked out in our parking lot, you would think there's an emergency, but there's no emergency. It's all good tonight, and this is a pleasure to have this opportunity to swear you in. So, please step over here with your family, and raise your right hand, and please repeat after me. I, Tad Henderson, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, and the ordinances of the town of Zionsville, Indiana. That I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge all my official duties in the position of Division Chief of EMS for the town of Zionsville, regardless of the race, creed, color, religion, sex, or national origin of the persons I serve. So help me God. Congratulations.
We'll give everybody associated with the fire department an opportunity to skip out of here if you don't want to stick around for the rest of the meeting. Riveting stuff, but, you know. All right, we'll move on to the next item of business, is the approval of the January 6, 2025 Town Council meeting memoranda. A copy's been posted. Are there any questions from councilors? Having none, I would move to approve.
Second.
Second from Counselor Sampson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is the approval of 2024 corrected claims. Are there any questions from councilors? If there are none,
No, I have some questions. Hi, Cindy.
Good evening.
I do appreciate your corrections memorandum. I had a few questions, though, anyway.
Okay.
I did try and follow when the PO number was listed and assumed that was my signal, that was why it was being reclaimed.
Right.
And I saw at the, I saw the corrections that you explained for funds 2300 and 2301. Totally followed that line of thinking. I remember splitting that account for fire and police. How was the ADP error found, or how does that happen? The larger,
That, it actually wasn't a large error.
I meant the larger interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was actually found when we were reconciling at month end. You know, I'm not sure, it was actually on the ADP side. One of our tax line items with the reports that were pulled from ADP that we used to enter into our financial system, when we were reconciling, what came out of the bank was less than what we had entered. And so when our payroll department reached out to ADP, it just so happened they had something different on that one line item, ended up being a little bit less than what we had in our system. So the correction was made at the time of reconciliation.
Okay, so I was trying to figure out where the error happens. Is it in our input? Is it in a calculation? You said it was ADP's error, but theirs was less, so we owed more?
No, we, in our system, we input more than what was actually necessary. So the line item was less than what we had input.
So that would be our
No.
error,
No,
right?
it was on the ADP side. Their report and our report, what was pulled was two different. They're not sure if they couldn't explain it. It wasn't on anything that we did on our end or in our payroll area. It was definitely. It's the first time it's ever happened. All I can say is it must have been a glitch on their side.
It just struck me as
yeah.
an odd error because I would think this is a calculation that you guys make, they make based on taxes and Medicare and all the
Right.
Social Security withdrawal amounts. So it just was that moment where I'm like, how did this error happen?
Right. I don't know that they were able to actually explain it to Angie as to why it actually happened.
Okay. Is this a normal amount of corrections, 23 pages?
No.
Okay.
Well, as you see, like at least 5 pages of it was just that one payroll entry
Right.
because we had to void the whole thing and re-enter it.
So is 19 a normal amount? Or
Well,
do you-
for one, this is a newer report.
Yeah.
And so, and here again, even though it says corrections, probably wasn't the best word to use. They weren't all errors. They weren't, it could have been a department that said, you know what, I paid that bill out of this line and I really should have taken it out of this line. So we fixed that. If the change made sense, then we made that change, but then that comes up as a correction.
Well, it lends to my brain that this affects our budgeting process as well. If we're able to put through a claim that seemingly went through in a line item, and we're watching the appropriations balances for 12 months, and you've been sending them to us, which is great.
Right.
And I've been watching the percentages as we go. And I did see some accounts get higher. Why do we wait until now to fix things? Because like something that jumped out at me was that one claim back in March where I said, hey, wait, I remember a double claim. It was the
They
overhead
weren't
door.
corrected now. So this report is pulled and is, we're able to generate it at the end of the year.
But
So
it's
this
from
is
all year long?
It's from all year long. So that correction March happened in March.
Okay.
So, so with that correction, then when that change took place, the next appropriation report, it would have been reflected in that.
Okay.
So not everything was just now corrected, it's just the report is just now generated.
It still seems like a lot of corrections for the year. Just kind of do we have a process that needs to be tweaked?
Well, actually, I was talking to Counselor Melton about this earlier. This is something, here again, it's a newer report.
Right.
And like I said, the majority of it, there's a very small amount that was actually errors. The majority of it is, hey, I want to change this line item, et cetera, or like the payroll issue or the donation issue. This is something, there are a few processes that I'm working on that's going to be going out to the department heads and to the admins.
Okay.
And this is one of them.
Well, that would be my suggestion
Yes.
based on my review.
Yes.
It just $5 million of changing line items. Granted, some of it was a larger payroll amount, but it's $5 million that we have made errors at some point along the year. So it's just something and I think it might just be not getting to the right line item, but
Right,
that does
and
affect
it's-
our budgeting, because if we're asking for budgets and we're looking at what we spent, but things aren't corrected, in August, we're looking at numbers that maybe some line items.
Generally, when somebody wants to change a line item and stuff, it happens pretty quickly. And so here again, now the payroll was towards the end of the year because it was the December 20th payroll.
Right.
But a lot of that, even though that report has that dollar amount, that does not mean that everything that makes up that dollar amount was a correction. Because if you've got an accounts payable voucher that has 20 line items and you have to change a vendor or an amount or something like that, you have to void the entire thing, make the one change, and so it's going to put all those 20 line items on there.
Okay.
So
Well, it makes
I
me feel
wouldn't-
better that you're telling me it's an entire year summary.
Yes, yes.
When I'm getting this, I'm reading, here's the corrections report that is of the third day of February. So I'm like, what am I looking at? This
no,
is
they
a
would have,
lot.
yeah, right, they would have been made closer to the time when it happened.
And so have we prorated amounts to between 2023 and 2024? Like I saw one of the line items, not a very large amount, but it says like it's the 2023-24 lease. So that was the correction that was made then, or?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, so I'm not sure I
I just was
can.
picking on the very first one.
Oh,
so.
okay. If it says 23, 24 lease, then I would say it's something that didn't actually hit the books until 24,
Okay.
possibly, and then, and so then the correction would have been in 24.
Okay, so a lot of the ones I circled, I saw the PO number had popped on, so I
Mm-hmm.
was going with that was the explanation.
And you also, if you notice that a few of those with the PO number, sometimes when an encumbrance is done, the department may not have enough in the line item to cover the entire invoice, so we encumber what they do have. So if you look at the APV number, if it's the same, then that means, here again, there were multiple line items within that entry, but the PO is only showing up against one of them. But we had to void the entire thing and re-input it to tie that one PO to it.
Okay, well, I'd seen a few of the Barnes and Thornburg back
Mm-hmm.
in here, and I was like, come on, haven't we been talking about that? So have we,
Right.
just for kicks, have we set a new way to get their bill so that it's paid timely? Because I saw in the other claims form that you paid January and February, and I was excited about that.
Paying legal fees is, I mean, it's something that I can't even begin to explain.
Well, there's a lot.
And there were a few in there that you're probably looking at that were paid out of the council legal line, but they were corrected to the admin legal line
Okay.
because it was prior to John Oberlander starting.
Right.
And so they got miscoded, and so those were corrected.
Okay, the last thing I have a question on, and I'm sorry, guys, that I'm asking so many questions, but I felt that this was important since this was called corrections. there's a number on page 11 that is like 200 and, I don't have glasses on.
Bank reconciliation adjustment.
Yes, and I feel like this is the reconciliation we asked about in March. Am I wrong? And then it was, or
No,
just a new
yeah,
one?
it was already taken care of back then. And as far as, hang on, you said page 11?
Page 11, it's like the third line from the bottom. It says general obligation bond 2018, and I asked in March about a general obligation bond. I don't know if it was the 2018, and it was a 200,000 something amount.
Right.
And Mia told me that, oh, that's for the parks, and that was a mistake. And I feel like this is the same number. Am I?
I believe, because what happened is the appropriation number just needed to be adjusted. It was still 2018 general obligation, that's street and not parks. But just the appropriation number needed to be changed, probably to like from a consulting to contractual services or
Okay.
something like
Those
that.
were there,
Yeah, so
similar
none
line
of
items.
these things on this report that you're looking at, they've all been paid, they've all been
Right.
taken care of. These are just, this is more for transparency and year-end cleanup
No, that's good.
than anything.
Well, it's just hard as we come to the close of
Sure.
business to see another $286,000 oopsie. So I just want to make sure it's not anything more than just going from contractual to consulting.
No, because we wouldn't have been able to do anything more without bringing it before council.
Okay.
Right.
Well, no, but the same thing happened in March where that same-ish amount of number was attached to a bond, and we were told, wait, that's not even supposed to be on your paperwork. Yeah.
That's too many months
Sorry.
ago for me to remember.
I'm
what-
sorry. Okay. All right.
Cindy, you mentioned that you were going to work on a process.
Right.
Or some kind of system to try and prevent some of this. Is there some of these mistakes or these changes, are they predominantly within a certain department?
Not necessarily. I
Are
mean,
you seeing?
you have to, and I know it seems like a lot, but you have to also understand the volume of what comes through. And so, it could be easily, maybe an admin coding something to one place, and then the department head decides, you know what, I needed to pay it from here instead of there, or.
Because they're in charge of their budget and they're watching their budget.
Right, and
maybe
when
the
something
admin's
comes
not.
through, as long as it makes sense, we're not going to question it, because they know their budget, better than we know their budget. So, as long as it makes sense, and here again, same with the change, as long as it makes sense, we'll make the change for them. There's been times when we've said, nope, sorry, can't do that. But, this report, being a newer report, was definitely an eye-opener. And it's something that is going to be addressed. Whether that is, and here again, I'm just talking off the top of my head because no process, I'm working on a process, but, if that means that, admins and department heads take a closer look to make sure they're paying it from where they need to pay it, whatever that process may be, that's what we're going to put in place.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for
You're welcome.
explaining all that.
Sure.
And I think that just jumps right back to my point of the budgeting process being affected by this, because when I looked at the budget, when we reviewed it back in August and September, I remember seeing like certain departments did have contractual and consulting. Those are the best two examples you could give and I paid attention to. So as I watched the appropriations report and I would see something going down, knowing that there was, I don't like the feeling of a slush fund of such. So it's, in the budgeting process, I would like people to look more line by line item of what they have and make sure they're not just putting this cushion in as we try to find money to pay for more firefighters and.
Yeah, I don't think
pay
it's so
our
much of
people.
a cushion, is sometimes, sometimes, here again, the volume of what comes through the departments and my department as a whole, sometimes you just grab the wrong number.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks,
welcome.
Cindy.
I know this is a big report. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
you're welcome.
Any other questions for Cindy? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the 2024 corrected claims. Second.
First from Counselor Norris, the second from Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you.
Up next is the approval of the 2024 year-end claims. Are there any questions from counselors?
Just a comment. For the public transparency, my small business was supported by an invitation by the town of Zionsville to cater the Christmas dinner, and that is in this claims, and I just want to recuse myself from that vote. And I
Any other
appreciate
questions or comments from counselors?
It was a great meal, by the way.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Counselor Norris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed, with Counselor Melton recusing himself. Up next is the approval of the January 25 payroll claims. Are there any questions from counselors? I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Counselor Norris. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is the approval of the February 3rd, 2025 claims. Are there any questions from counselors? I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from,
Can I ask one question?
hold on a second. Second from Counselor Melton, and we will entertain comment. Yes.
Okay, my comment would just be that when I reviewed the February 3rd, that's when we're on, February 3rd claims, there are a lot of December entries, and I was just wondering, is this something that will kick in, some of corrections or adjustments between 2024 and 2025? Like, how is that, when they come in here and it says like December expenses, is it just because we're cash basis that we're, when we paid it, or do we have any sort of responsibility for?
Some of them may actually be encumbrances, and they just don't have the PO number with them yet, because here again, we haven't closed out 2024.
Okay, that's, okay,
Yeah.
great. Then I'm fine.
All right, so we have a first from President Plunkett, a second from Counselor Melton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is request to speak. I have one request to speak from Sean Hayner. Amy, do you have any other ones?
No, we do not.
All right, Mr. Hayner, if you would, please, when you come up here, you'll have 3 minutes. I'll give you a 1-minute warning as you dial that down. And if you would, just state your name and address for the record, and I'll start the timer when you're done.
So my name is Sean Hayner, 11553 Indian Hill Way in Zionsville. I'm the treasurer of my community's HOA, and I'm speaking in opposition to the subdivision control ordinance amendment regarding the streetlights. I want to first talk a little bit about the public streets, because for our HOA, about 1/3 of our assessments go towards taking care of some of the costs of public streets. So there's 4 issues, there's 4 parts of that I want to talk about. The street resurfacing of the streets, Zionsville's taking care of that, government takes care of that, we got no problem with that, that's working very, very well. Snow removal, as you know, when we moved to the urban district, Zionsville took over snow removal, we don't have to pay for that anymore. Wonderful, saved us a lot of money, and it's way better now. Lance's crew takes great care of us. The third area is street signs. Street signs in the ordinance are an optional thing. If we want to get decorative street signs, we can pay for them with HOA money, otherwise Zionsville would take care of our street signs. The last area is street lights. So there's 2 components of street lights. There's the maintenance and there's the electrical. So currently under ordinance, we have to pay for the maintenance of those street lights. That's about $119 per homeowner every year that our homeowners are paying for the maintenance of those street lights on the public street, not in an area that we own. The part we're talking about tonight is the electrical usage. The electrical usage amounts to $21 per homeowner every year. With this ordinance, that reimbursement is going to go away. So our HOA dues will go up by $21 per homeowner. So I'm less concerned about $20, to be honest. What I want to point out is the tactic of taking the cost of public services and moving that over to an HOA when an HOA exists. If an HOA doesn't exist, you can't do it. So what I'm asking, is it fair to shift the cost of public services only to those who live in an HOA as a measure to decrease the cost of residential growth? I have great confidence in you guys. I've been watching for 5 years. I know you guys make great decisions. All I want to do is put that on the table. Is it the right thing to shift cost to HOAs when you can? Because if the HOA doesn't exist, you can't. So it's some pay, some don't. So that's the only point I want to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your point.
All right, up next on the agenda is a mayor administration update with Mayor Steer with us this evening.
Thank you, President Plunkett, and good evening, councilors. I know you have a full agenda, so I'll be brief as I go through this. The new year has given us an opportunity to take a new look at economic development and economic redevelopment, so we will be making a few changes. We're going to realign how we work with the Redevelopment Commission. Deputy Mayor Justin Hage will take on the additional title of Redevelopment Commission Executive Director. And to streamline our efforts, the RDC will report to him, which will clear up any confusion over the chain of command. And as part of this realignment, the Associate Planner, Zach Lutz, will focus on his economic development responsibilities and move out of the Planning Department structure. He will report directly to Justin. And we do have a salary ordinance amendment on the agenda tonight to affect his new role and title. It will not be an impact on the budget, it's just changing his title and changing his role. And then we also have been working with several key stakeholders to create an Indiana Main Street organization through the State Office of Community and Rural Affairs, or OCRA. The application is moving forward. We should have approval this spring, and we will have a member of that committee come and report to you on that this spring. Main Street organizations focus on promoting the downtown commercial district as the center of life in a community. And to me, this is in the category of economic development. So as this process moves forward, I would anticipate coming to the council to ask for an appropriation from the Food and Beverage Fund so the town can support this the way I think it needs to be supported. And that is all I have tonight. And if no one has any questions, I'll move on down the road.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we do not have any old business items. We do have first item up on new business is a consideration of appointments to the Zionsville Advisory Committee on Disability. We have 3 appointments, Dave Ellison, Andy Slack, and Sarah Sampson. I just want to point out or publicly acknowledge I appreciate Councilor Sampson's involvement here. She provided both of the citizen names and obviously volunteered to be a part of it as well. So thank you very much for that. Are there any questions or comments on the advisory committee appointments?
I think we'd just add that we now know that there are some people lining up that are interested in joining, which is great that interest is there within the town. And we have taken people's names that have written letters and called in, and obviously we'll be considering them for future appointments.
Certainly. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
First from Councilor Melton, the second from Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next on the agenda is a conflict of interest, anti-nepotism, and compliance. Amy, I know there's no vote on this formally, but if you wouldn't mind just saying a couple words on this.
Okay. Well, to comply with state regulations as well as the Town of Zionsville Ordinance 2024-46 regarding conflict of interest and nepotism, that was included in your packet. And you also you all need to complete the compliance with the town's nepotism policy involving direct line supervision and the compliance with the contracting with the town by a relative policy. Both of those you have in front of you now. Those have to be completed and submitted before the end of the year. They go to the town council president, so if you would just turn them into me, I will scan them and share them with President Plunkett, and I'll keep a copy on file. There's also the Uniform Conflict of Interest Disclosure Statement. That's a state form. It only needs to be completed if you do have a conflict of financial interest, and it has to be completed at the time that happens. Cindy can offer more information on that if you have questions. And those would be submitted to Cindy. So that's it.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Those are all, as Amy mentioned, those are up here. So if you would, please make sure you sign those before you leave. Up next is the cancellation of warrants. Maybe I can give this a run, Cindy, so you don't have to come up here if you don't want to. Every year, we get cancellation of warrants if there's an outstanding check that hasn't been cashed over a 2-year period. We cancel the check. So that's what these are. There's no vote. It's a done deal. See, saved you a trip.
Is every effort made to contact these people?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think from our perspective, just to get people paid and, try to get it off the books, they certainly do a good job of that. but-
These are legitimate businesses still
Yeah.
in operation
Yeah.
in our town. Okay.
Yep. All right, up next on the agenda is the consideration of an ordinance amending the Zionsville Code of Ordinances. This is ordinance 2025-01, and we have Lance here, Director of DPW. As Director Lance is on his way up here, I would remind the council this has already been heard and approved by the Plan Commission, so we will only read this one time and vote tonight.
Thank you. Good evening. You have before you a staff-initiated ordinance amending Section 193.060A of the Subdivision Control Ordinance, which guides and informs developers on certain standards when it comes to new developments. This section appropriately includes broad direction on new street lighting by way of general locations and spacing. However, for several years, it has also included provisions that could commit the town to added expenses, such as paying electricity bills for interior subdivision streetlights, as well as potentially bind the town to pay for new or future replacement lighting when facilities reach the end of their useful life or become damaged. And this does include decorative lighting, not just standard wooden utility pole lighting. This ordinance amendment removes the town's, the above potential burdens to the town. I'm going to start that sentence again, if I may, please. This ordinance amendment removes the, I still screwed it up. This ordinance amendment removes the above potential financial burdens to the town, thus restoring this council and future council's abilities to have the latitude to consider uniquely and with discretion what you want to pay for in the future. A public hearing, as your council president stated, was held by the Plan Commission. I did attend that meeting. There was no public comment at the hearing, and the Plan Commission had very few questions of Mike Dale. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, Lance, I appreciate you bringing this up. I was looking through and reviewing this when it came to the docket. I just want to, as a point of clarification, Mr. Hayner said that they would now be responsible for those expenses. My understanding is this is not,
That is correct. There's nothing retroactive to this ordinance
forward.
amendment. This forecloses any future, what I'm going to say, abuses of this exposure of the town. So if you are in a development or subdivision that through past circumstances currently has the town pay your bills, that will remain as is.
Yeah.
Lance, adding to that, and appreciate Mr. Hayner's testimony. Thank you for coming. When this was first brought to my attention, I wasn't aware this happened, and even in the line of questions I had, I got the impression that really no HOA was even taking the town up on this. And so I was surprised to hear that there were folks who were saying that they're currently being reimbursed by the town. How many HOAs are you aware of in Zionsville who would be impacted by this change?
No one would be impacted by this change because this freezes things as they are today.
I think maybe Lance, even to take that a step further, no one is impacted by this change. Everyone who is currently having their electric bill paid
by the
for
town.
by the town will continue to have that happen.
Correct.
So in essence, they're grandfathered.
Correct. If somebody goes and builds a new neighborhood tomorrow and we don't pass this, then we open ourselves up to the possibility of that neighborhood saying, wait a minute, you guys have to pay this. And that's where I think, I appreciate town staff bringing this to our attention to kind of clean this up. And I appreciate that, it's certainly not something that's going to affect anybody who is currently receiving benefits from this ordinance.
That's a great, thank you for clarifying that. I'd still, I guess, be curious how many HOAs or how many neighborhoods are being reimbursed, because I don't
Aren't they
believe
in our
that all are.
claims?
Pardon me?
When we look at claims and it has the
You would never
addresses?
be able to tease these out of claims because the two electric utility providers are Duke and Booty REMC, and you typically see a lump sum. I don't know what invoices you may see with those, but there are a couple of dozen accounts the
We see
town has those.
addresses.
But if you've looked through those then, and if you can pick out what Town of Zionsville means or various location means, then you're a lot more intuitive than I. It would take a very big deep dive to go through the dozens of accounts to identify exactly which specific account or charge goes with the neighborhood. I am aware of about 10 to 12 subdivisions for which we currently pay their utility bill, and this goes back really The stage was set in the 90s for this, so this has been going on a long time. There's been some past stabs to try and make this better, but the ordinance as it stands now does not fit the current building structures of utilities, nor does it fit their models for providing decorative lights at developments.
Thank you, Lance.
Lance, I have a quick question. Just want to clear up a little nomenclature. When Mr. Hayner came up and spoke, he talked about public streets. You called them interior street lights. Could you just kind of clear up exactly what lights we're talking about here?
I use the term interior to mean internal to a kind of a unique development. I absolutely believe the town has an obligation to provide street lighting to an appropriate degree on those collector streets, those higher streets leading to developments. But the levels of lighting that are desired varies across developments. Some people like dark skies. They don't want lights. We have many subdivisions out there who will never realize any benefit from this because they simply don't have streetlights, and they choose to remain that way. So when I say interior, I don't mean on a road that we might travel to and from the store by course of nature. I mean internal to a development.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Lance. Are there any other questions from councilors? Having none, I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
A second from Councilor Norris. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is a consideration of an ordinance to create a Department of Economic Development. This is ordinance 2025-02, and we have Deputy Mayor Justin Hage to present.
Thank you, President Plunkett. As the mayor alluded to in his update, this administration has found that it is going to be in the best interest of the town and our citizens to have a Department of Economic Development, which is separate from the previous department, which was now planning and building, and that it is a new department that I will lead, and that there will be a member who was previously part of our planning and building department that will come and serve as the deputy director of that department. So in order for that person to come over, we are required to have an ordinance to create that new department. So it's relatively straightforward, but happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from councilors?
Yeah, I just have a little bit of a, I wanted some clarity. So we're creating a new department.
Correct.
And the deputy mayor is going to be the head of that department.
Sir.
So essentially, the deputy mayor's position will be the head of the department for economic development. And I guess with regards to removal of, say something happens where the head of the department wants to be removed, needs to be removed either by the mayor or by the council, I just see a conflict with that. I didn't know, in the past, we have a head of department over a department, and the mayor has the ability to come to the council and ask to remove somebody from that position. And I just feel like, I went back and looked at the reorganization for the town, and through reading the reorganization for the town, it talks about the mayor and the deputy mayor and their roles. And it mentioned that the deputy mayor's role is to be subordinate and not be more powerful than the mayor. And I just worry about this as we move forward. If the council doesn't agree with your economic development prerogative, there's nothing that we can do to remove the head of the department, because the head of the department is working underneath the mayor of Zionsville as an appointed position. So I'm just putting that out there. I don't know that I have an answer. We're going to still probably vote on this, and I just think it's important that we understand that these things, we have a very unique system here in Zionsville, and every time I have a question, I kind of go back to what's the quote-unquote constitution for the town of Zionsville. And when I go back and read that, and I read the hierarchy between the mayor and the deputy mayor, and then now you're becoming a head of a department, that just makes me a little, nothing against you, Justin, deputy mayor, nothing against the current mayor, but it is just one of those things that as I look at that, does that remove authority from this council or the future councils? Because we can't do anything if we don't like the way the economic development prerogative is going. So That being said, I don't have any motion or anything to stop or promote this. I just have concern. And again, it's not from perspective of you, sir, or your agenda, but it is something, I want to do the best I can for the next person that's going to sit in my seat.
Right.
And we know that people want my seat. So that's just my thought.
I think that the words are used as director of the Economic Development Department, but there's no actual department head. We have an assistant department head. Is that what Zach is being called?
He would be the deputy director, and then
Deputy.
I would serve as the department head.
So you will definitely be a department
Yes.
head.
And just, I think, and whether the council or the council for the council, or chief legal counsel can perhaps correct me, but I think to actually discharge duties of a department head has to be initiated by the mayor and then approved by the council, as was discussed and litigated at length. So I think any department head that would be removed, the mayor would still start that process, and then this council has the power to approve that action. But it still gets started by the mayor. I don't think there's an independent process by which the council can discharge a department head.
I don't think there is.
That gives me comfort.
No, but you raised a great point, and just as a clarifier as well. So, as was well litigated, right? To the process you mentioned, the mayor can begin that process. The council has to approve the removal of any department head. It's been my understanding until now that the deputy mayor is not a department head and serves at the pleasure of the mayor and is chosen by the mayor and could be relieved by the mayor. If in fact you become a department head as well, then it would, heaven forbid this ever happens, but if there were a removal, then that would require also, because you're a deputy mayor and a department head, would require council approval, and that could, to some degree, tie the hands of the mayor. I don't know, if that's just how I'm reading it. It doesn't change anything, and I'm happy to support this, but it is a change in terms of that relationship.
It could, and what I would say as well is that I think the plan potentially, or the possible path, is that this becomes a somewhat temporary arrangement, and that this department becomes more fully fleshed out and has its own director, and that in the spirit of looking at our budget, as was discussed, a moment ago by Councilor Sampson, that this is a way to create this department and staff this department in the interim, because we're doing this, in the middle of a budget year, obviously, and whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that if we think there is a will from this administration and approval from this council, that we would build out this department further.
I have full faith in your ability to do the job. It just made me think that would be a potential shift.
Yeah. Craig and I had talked about this. And we both, it's hard because I feel great that what you're doing. I'm very happy that we're getting an economic department. That was something I voiced last year. So I really like that the direction of the RDC is being given alongside the administration. But there is that one caveat that in a small way, he becomes more powerful than you because you can't get rid of him now. So it's a technicality, but we might need to change your name then as not department head and operate a department without a department head. I don't even know if that's possible, but once you become a department head, by definition of not being able to be let go by the mayor, he's not all powerful over your position. So it was just a technicality that Craig and I were discussing, but we all, I think, I'm speaking for you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, we're all like, we trust you, we think you're gonna do a great job. You could be hit by a car tomorrow, we have someone here that isn't you, but we just set that person is now equal, not overruled by the mayor, because he needs us to agree to get rid of you. And you're supposed to be at his pleasure. So there is the small, and I'm not a lawyer, but there's got to be some legal way, John O., or Adam, I don't know, there's got to be some way that we tie in that you are forgiving your department head right of being removed by the mayor, right? Is that a way around it, that he could sign off on that? I don't know. Is that going against our reorg? Like, how does that?
So this ordinance, and I don't want to get down too many rabbit holes here, but this ordinance reads, "The deputy mayor will supervise and manage the Department of Economic Development."
Right, that's, I was trying to get
That-
away from department head.
I haven't seen, I mean, unless the mayor intends to designate you a department head tomorrow when this thing, or whenever this thing's approved, but, I mean, all of the dialogue has been that you're gonna supervise, you're gonna manage, just like the language that's in here. I guess this is the first time I've heard designation of a department head in this, within this ordinance. And my concerns are less what they're talking about, more so I mean, we certainly hope, you know, you and John are mayor and deputy mayor for however long you want to be, but if for whatever reason next term he's not, you're still a department head. And I guess I was under the impression, and supportive, by the way, under the impression and supportive of supervise and manage under the umbrella. I just assumed we were just carving this out under the umbrella of the deputy mayor.
Yeah, I think we want to confer with Heather and John to make sure that we're all on the same page. I did not draft this ordinance, but just reading over it, it makes it sound like the deputy mayor has these additional responsibilities now.
Right.
It is not that they are now also a department head that requires extra removal. They are just responsibilities.
And that's
of the
what I
deputy
read too.
mayor.
I was reading that too, but they
we
both
wanna-
just said, yep, he's the department head, and that's
Yeah,
where I'm like, time out, we gotta define this.
We might want to clarify in the ordinance that they are or are not a department head.
Yeah.
I think that's all Craig and I were talking about last night, was just, this might need to be spelled out.
I guess I would add, this really worked for me because it's you.
Right.
You. And so thinking kind of to Craig's point, down the road, does this place a burden on the next mayor, assuming you're not going to be mayor from now until eternity, the next mayor, to have to find somebody with that skill set
Right.
to be the deputy mayor? And so I like it because it's you, but then I guess there's a bigger question to be asked, and it's what next?
We just amend the ordinance, right?
Well, so I think there's a couple things to think through here. This is a first reading, right? So we've got a month to work it out. I know that the hope was that we would pass it, maybe spin the rules and pass it tonight. But I think it's fair to say there's at least some questions around definitions, supervise and manage a department as opposed to department head. And I think that's something I would like additional clarity on. I mean, I'm happy to move it forward on, so that we can vote on it again in March. But I don't know that I'm necessarily comfortable suspending the rules until we get, finality on that.
John may offer some insight. He's up.
John's
That'd be
here.
helpful.
What do you think, Jono?
Quietly saying.
Good evening, everyone. John Overlander, Chief Legal Counsel. Thanks. I think the intent was, as President Plunkett had said, was to have Justin retain the title as deputy mayor and just oversee and manage the department, not necessarily to make him a director, quote unquote. Obviously, to exercise some of those responsibilities, but not necessarily take that title under the reorganization resolution.
So I'm on board with that. If we can talk about it, get it approved tonight, I would rather not suspend the rules. However, I guess my angst is still that we're creating a department that essentially doesn't have a head of department to have a chain of command, even though there is the management of this. And I wonder if the deputy would take that role, not you, the deputy of economic development, though, would take the head of the department role. And I think the issue is that we don't have a funding mechanism right now because we're in the middle of the year, or we've already hit the budget cycle. So I guess the money's there for the deputy of economic development. Do we change the title and still have him answer to the deputy mayor. Does that make sense? I mean, maybe we can't do that because of the department head scenario, but do you understand my ask, John?
I do. I think that with the salary ordinance amendment, what's going in there is the deputy director position. So I think that would have to be amended as well, if there were going to be further changes. But I think with what this states is that for the chain of command purposes, that anybody within the Department the Department of Economic Development would report to the deputy mayor. Not necessarily as a department head, but they would report to the deputy mayor.
I mean, for me, I feel like we could vote this through to have the month-long changes and maybe just find a way that we define that Justin is actually not a department head and he is an advisor chain of command to the mayor more than to Justin. Like, is that possible? That the ultimate department head is actually you, John, until we grow our budget for the department? Is that?
You could just change the job duties of the deputy mayor to include oversight of the economic development.
No different than the lieutenant governor being
Right.
the head
Yeah.
of the agricultural committees and whatnot.
Yeah,
You
and,
know, like,
and not
that's-
be called a department head, not have this ordinance say, I mean, it says direct, but, or supervise and manage, maybe it should just be have oversight, or, there's got to be some.
Well, I'm
better
good with
words.
supervise and manage. I think it's just, we just got a month to figure out, the department head question, the department head situation, how we clean that
Because
up.
without the reorg sitting right here, I can't,
Yeah.
Right.
say one way or another.
I think we owe it to take a good look at it, just to make sure. I think we're all on the same page where we want it to be.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
say we take a month to make sure.
Yeah. Now, again, it is a first reading, so I think, do you have something you were going to say?
No.
I think that if you guys are okay with it, I think we move it to March. Let Heather, John, Justin, Mayor Stair, all of us take a look at it and figure out what the right next step is, but, so,
So do you want us to introduce it then tonight?
yeah, I would entertain a motion.
May I introduce the motion, ordinance number 2025-03?
Second.
First from Counselor Melton, second from Counselor Norris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Clarification, I think you said 03. This is 02.
Oh,
I apologize. I shouldn't have seconded that.
I literally looked down like, wow, we're fine.
All right, Adam, what do we do? How do we unring that bell?
You just corrected it.
Okay, perfect.
With corrections.
thank you for the correction.
Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. All right. Up next is a consideration of an ordinance amending the 2025 salary ordinance. This is for the Deputy Director of Economic Development. This is also a first reading. Does anybody have any questions? These next couple?
This amount is already in the budget, and it
Yeah.
is just shifting the name.
Correct.
Yeah, I just have a real simple question. On the ordinance that we just moved on, one of the bullets under qualifications, Deputy Mayor says, must have and maintain a valid driver's license, demonstrate a safe driving record, remain insurable through the town's liability insurance. I just want to make sure, in addition to the salary that we would be approving, are we also talking about providing some type of town vehicle, or is that simply just so that they can get around in their own car within the town?
Or in the event that they needed to drive a town vehicle, they will not be provided one.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's not going to be provided in addition to the salary?
Correct.
Thank you.
Do we have like a fleet insurance that covers our cars while our employees drive it, or does their personal insurance cover them?
Yes.
Yes,
do have-
I said
yes.
or, so I'm not sure which one.
The
Fleet?
town insures
Fleet insurance.
individuals while they're driving town-owned vehicles.
Perfect.
Any questions for Deputy Mayor Hage? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve, or to introduce ordinance 2025-03.
Second.
I have a first from Counselor Sampson and a second from Counselor McElderry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you.
You want to suspend the rules on this one? And just go ahead and get it done?
No, I think we can, there's,
And now we have the question of, is he going to be a deputy director and?
Okay, just wait.
all right. Up next on the agenda is a consideration ordinance amending the designated outdoor refreshment area. This is the DORA ordinance. Ordinance 2025-04. This is a first reading, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce this one. As we discussed last year when we established the DORA, we knew there would be opportunities to modify that map and those boundaries for the businesses that would want to be in. This amendment loops the RLL racing team into the DORA. I would point out that this is not an approval of the existing DORA because that is already in place. This is simply making a change to include a business who wishes to be a part of the DORA moving forward. So, happy to answer any questions.
Have we received our ATC approval for the DORA? Yes? Okay. And is this anything more than coming to the deputy mayor for this change? Like, at what point do we have that process?
If you were to add another restaurant or entity within the four walls of an existing DORA, then that's something that the town can approve. But if you're changing the actual geographic boundaries of a DORA, then it has to come before the council.
Justin, well, real quick, we can change this up to 7 times? Is there
You can create 7 independent DORAs.
So can we alter this unlimited times?
You could incrementally grow out of this current boundary.
Because it's one DORA.
Infinitely, but you can create 7 separate, non-contiguous DORAs.
Thank you for that clarification. May I make a motion, Jason?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One more question. Over
Tim and
here.
I were just talking, I'm looking at the boundaries. I thought we agreed to include what used to be Pizza King, I can't remember what it's called now, but the gentleman that came in and said he
Yes.
didn't want to be a part of it.
We
It's-
did, and this
We
is
did.
the wrong map. Good catch.
Because I thought it extended all the way down to include.
It does. We added that when we.
That is correct.
When we approved it, we added it.
So Adam, could they approve it subject to that?
I think it's just the
Map
wrong
being-
map.
Yeah, subject, map replacement, yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-04, subject to the original map inclusion of the public house area on the original map.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilor Melton to introduce introduce in the first reading.
Second.
A second from Councilor Sampson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. I don't know that there's necessarily a need to pass this on, suspend the rules and pass it, except for it just frees up our meeting in March, if you guys do it.
But it also has to be approved by ATC by the time we open April 1st for our DORA, right? So that might be a reason to suspend the rules today.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Because
guys-
it gives the ATC time to still fall in line with our timeline?
Yeah.
Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's,
I would make a motion to
Yeah.
suspend the rules so that we can vote on this to introduce it as a final reading.
Second.
I have a first from Councilor Norris, a second from Councilor Melton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Now I will make a motion to approve, thank you, ordinance 2025-04 on final reading.
Second.
Subject to the revisions
Map.
and additions of Councilor Melton.
So I have a first from Councilor Norris, a second from Councilor Stein. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. All right. Up next on the agenda is consideration of an ordinance amending the smoking ordinance. This is specific to a cigar bar, ordinance 2025-05. This is also a first reading, and I'm going to introduce this one as well. As a narrative, we currently have an ordinance that carves out specific exceptions for smoking in the town of Zionsville. Some of those include hotel motel rooms that are designated for smoking, nursing home and long-term care facilities which residents may smoke in, and in private residence as well. This ordinance seeks to allow an exception for a private membership paid club cigar lounge as defined In Town Code Title 9, Chapter 93, this ordinance requires specific enclosures and separate ventilation systems to exhaust air separately from non-smoking areas of the private club. Further, this ordinance goes on to restrict the use of any other tobacco products, only allowing cigars as defined as a roll of tobacco that has a wrapper or cover consisting only of tobacco. This restricts hookah, cigarettes, and vaping, and continues this council and councils before us with a longstanding commitment to comprehensive smoking bans in the town of Zionsville. I'd like to thank the councilors who offered solutions on this ordinance and helped us get to this point, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you to folks who were open to trying to make this as severely restricted as possible and to accomplish the aims that you want. Zionsville does have one of the strongest smoking bans in the state of Indiana, and we're proud of that, and I believe a lot of that gets preserved. There are negative health effects associated with all cigarette smoking, including cigar smoking, and we should be aware of that. So I'm cautious to approve anything like this. I'll probably be opposed to it, but I appreciate that this has been narrowly defined as much as you could kind of do that to accomplish your aims.
I would agree. I'm glad that the definition of a cigar was clearly defined. Thank you for that amendment to what was originally proposed. I think that makes this a little bit more palatable for me as well.
Anything else from councilors? I would make a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance 2025-05.
Second.
I have a second from Councilor Norris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Did I have two or just one down there? Okay, so motion passes 5 in favor, 2 opposed.
No, they're giving you a one.
That was a one, excuse me.
One opposed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought Milton was, okay. All right, so six in favor, 1 opposed.
It was very echoey.
I know,
Yeah.
it was.
These
Big
new
voice,
mics,
Brad.
man, these new mics. All right, up next on the agenda is consideration of an ordinance to amend the Zionsville Code of Ordinance. This is in Creekside Corporate Park. This is ordinance 2025-06. I would point out that this has already been heard and approved by the Plan Commission, so we only have 1 reading that's required for this particular ordinance. I'm going to introduce this one as well. As you may recall, Creekside is in a PUD, and any changes that are required, including signage, must go through the town council for approval. Most of the current signage on buildings in Section E is currently temporary signage, in part because this amendment needed to be made, and in part due to not knowing tenants for the specific facility. They now have tenants lined up and need to move forward with their signage. You may recall from previous council meetings and presentations that this location is a corporate headquarters for more than 11 different companies and foundations. This change seeks to allow signage as requested by the petitioner and included in your packet. Some of these changes have been as a result of new businesses on the campus, and others are simply fine-tuning the PUD to align with the sign standards required. All future changes to other Creekside properties will adhere to the same path as these changes, which are specific only to Section E. I appreciate the work from town staff, their recommendation for approval, the petitioner, and the favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission. Any questions from councilors?
I did like seeing that the Plan Commission had given a favorable and the staff. That is something that, we've talked about relying on the people that we appoint and on the staff. So for me, it was an easy support to give. And plus, some of the temporary signs actually look not so good. So I think we'd be looking at improvements here.
I guess I would just bring up, and I don't know how many of you might have received this letter. I believe it was a constituent of mine in District 1, brought up the sign that has Indianapolis on it that faces 106th Street, is that correct? As to why that doesn't say Zionsville. It's obviously a miss that we didn't ask them to put Zionsville instead of Indianapolis up there. I'm sure if this facility was located in Indianapolis, they wouldn't want Zionsville on the sign. I don't think it can be changed at this point, but I just wanted to bring it up, and the fact that my guess is that these are brands that likely are not available anywhere else in the Indianapolis metropolitan area. So that's why Ray Hall decided to put Indianapolis on the sign. But it is a relatively large sign that faces 106th Street in Zionsville that says Indianapolis on it. So I just thought I'd bring it up. I don't think we can ask them to change it at this point, but I got multiple correspondences on that, so.
Point taken, for sure. Any other questions or comments from counselors? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-06.
Second I got a first from Counselor Sampson, a second from Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. All right. Last item of business is a consideration of a resolution regarding the appropriation of additional funds. We have Cindy here, potentially John Oberlander, maybe Deputy Mayor Hage, a little bit of everybody.
Okay, so for this, there are a couple of items on here. The first one is for the contractual services for the finance department. This would be to make the final settlement payment to OpenGov. And then the rest would be the appropriations to the Economic Development Department and the staffing and budget for that department. And as you see in the resolution, that this technically isn't new money because we're doing a de-appropriation from the planning department to move it to the Economic Development Department.
And all of this would be pending if this second reading would go in accordance with what we just said we wanted to have some changes to, correct?
Right, and this is only one
So it's
reading.
an additional
Right.
introduction.
This is just one reading. It's a
Oh, this is
resolution.
one.
So if you want to wait on that, my suggestion would be to approve the additional for OpenGov, strike the rest, we'll re-advertise and do a new resolution for the next meeting when you reconvene on this.
That seems more in line with what we're
Can we do that?
doing. I think we're fine on OpenGov.
Or can they table that part?
What would you need to change in this resolution if we just clarify that?
Yeah, if all they're going to do is clarify how the department's going to be, none of this is going to change.
So then I would recommend that you conduct the public hearing. That way we check that box off, table the adoption of the resolution. We can come back at the next meeting.
Well, the settlement for OpenGov needs to happen.
Okay, well then,
Yeah.
approving that part and then we can,
Right.
So can,
He's got it.
okay.
okay, well, I'm going to open the public hearing. All right, as soon as I can find my language. All right, so this is a public hearing. I approve publication of the notice of the public hearing. At this point, I'll open the public hearing. If there's any members of the public who would like to comment, having none, I'll close the public hearing. All right.
Like make motion?
Yeah.
All right, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-01 with the following amendment, that the only additional appropriation that we approve tonight be Fund 1101, General Finance and Records Contractual Services, which is the $69,500 payment, final settlement payment for OpenGov, and that be the only settlement payment out of this.
Second.
I have a first. from-
69,550.
Oh.
You said
69,550.
And that the other items are tabled for further discussion at the next meeting.
Yeah. Second. Is that not right?
Hearing was for 69,550, so that's good. Okay, so I have a first from Counselor Norris and a second from Counselor Sampson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Up next are other matters. Are there any other matters from counselors?
Wow.
Having none, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A second from Counselor Norris. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular Town Council meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 3rd, 2025, at 7 p.m. in the Zionsville Town Hall Council Chambers. Please note there will be no second meeting in February due to President's Day holiday. Final notice will be posted in compliance with the Indiana Open Door Law.